How you want to tell them this, and what do you want them to do, if anything?
Okay.
I should take more than a couple minutes because there's a lot of detail, but I'll be as quick as possible. One of the hot button issues right now is the call for Constitution Convention on Article 5 of the Constitution. This is something we definitely do not want to do for many reasons. You see Mark Levin's book, the Liberty Amendments and all the stuff he's put out, well, there's a lot of hokey pokey in that. It's to get conservatives all fired up and do something because of that usurper we have in the White House. The problem we have is he isn't really the problem. The problem is we have a Constitution that works. Like Ron Paul said, if you just open up and read it, here's everything you need to know to govern this country. One of the things we do need to be concerned of is that we had a Constitution Convention once before, and it was a runaway convention. It was in 1787, and it was the delegates that went to amend the Articles of Confederation. The problem is, they were sole purpose was to revise the Articles. What they ended up doing was that they knew the inherent political nature of a convention. And a convention basically has the ultimate power because no one can tell them what to do. Okay? Once they go to this convention, what do? We had good people then, and it gave us the Constitution. They also changed the whole ratifying process. The Articles needed to have all 13 states agree to something. When they did the Constitution, they needed 9 out of 13 states to ratify it. So you can see how they changed the rules there. If we go and have a Constitution Convention now, especially with all the George Soroses and Bloombergs that are out there, they have their own versions of the Constitution they'd like to submit. And we see how this process works. It can be easily perverted. Okay? The problem that you have is once you let them loose, we don't know what we're going to get back. You can call it any epitaph you want. You can call it whatever you want. It's going to be nasty. And it's not going to be anything that we recognize in any way, shape, or form. It'll be politically correct, and it will be totally destructive to what we consider a republic, that's for sure. Just real quickly, a real good quote to kind of ratify this whole particular thing was actually by Chief Justice Warren Burger. And he said succinctly to a letter to Phyllis Schlafly in 1988, "Folks, for the sake of your posterity, you must understand this. After convention is convened, the delegates can do whatever they want, including coming up with an entirely new constitution with its own method of ratification," unquote. Which means they can make it so that Congress can ratify it. They can make it so that the president can sign it and ratify it. Whoever is in the White House, whether it's blue or red, it doesn't matter. They could also put in the simple fact that they can have their own ratifying committees in the states, which totally usurps the sovereignty of the states to do anything about this. Alabama recently put forth a thing for their Constitution Convention, but they said only 3 things could be talked about. One of them was the balanced budget amendment, which is really popular for conservatives. The left-wingers also have what's called move to amend, where they want to abolish corporate personhood. Okay? So you see how any particular group has their poster child, but the same process is the same. And this is what we need to be very worried of. And then when you see neocons such as Michelle Malkin start endorsing Article 5s, you need to start really questioning who they're working for. So like Rush Limbaugh says, follow the money. See who's paying them to make them start talking this. Because if they would clearly go back and read what Article 5 says and understand the process, they would totally walk away from it. They'd be like, hecky no, I'm not getting involved with this at all. So the fact that the states could have any power over the delegates to do anything with the Constitutional Convention is an absolutely flat-out lie. It doesn't exist. Basically, you got a bunch of renegades that are going to decide the fate of our future, and that's it. It's done. And they'll sign off on the dotted line, just like our founding fathers did with the Declaration of Independence, and also how they sound off the Constitution. So basically, read the Constitution, you'll see they, the hierarchy enslaving you, are counting on you being too stupid to read and not being able to figure this out. Why do you think the schools produce illiterate slobs who cannot read or think? Because if you can read and think, you can figure this out on your own. So, nevertheless, let me go ahead and start the second one. The second one I wanted to talk about is very near and dear to my heart, is that we need to recognize gold and silver as sound money in the great sovereign state of Ohio. The great state of Utah have already passed a law not too long ago that allowing the free trade of gold and silver not only for amongst the citizenry, but also to pay public debts. Texas has put forth a bill to actually have a bullion depository. This is incredible. because the fact that Texas is ahead of us in so many issues right now, it's absolutely incredible what's going on down here. The simple fact that they would create something such as that is actual real competition to the Federal Reserve. The problem with the Federal Reserve is people don't realize it's not federal and there are no reserves. It's a privately owned foreign banking corporation who actually controls our money supply. And in the 101 years that they've been around, they've actually knocked the value of our dollar to 6 cents. You can find any documentary that would show this and you'll be able to figure it out. The thing is, if we actually have real competition, and also it's constitutionally compliant, that only gold and silver are used to pay debts, as it says in the Constitution, then we are compliant with the Constitution. Arizona almost passed this law, but unfortunately Governor Brewer had vetoed it. So these are some things we need to look into, some issues here, and I just want to bring up to the fact that any of our actual representatives that may be in the audience tonight, that these are issues I like to hear in Columbus, on the Senate floor, on the House floor, because they are near and dear to our heart. Because if we have any economic collapse in this country, that dollar is going to disappear overnight. You remember how the Soviet Union was? Also, we woke up one day in 1991, it was gone. That could happen to us. That could very well happen to us. So we, as citizens of the great sovereign state of Ohio, need to stand up and say we want to recognize gold and silver as legitimate currency amongst our people and to pay public debts. Thank you. Yes.
For any of you who think that Sonny's a little far out, he's not.
Thank you.
I've heard a lot, I've read a lot, and he's right on. There was an opportunity on the first issue of the constitutional amendment, our constitutional convention. There was an opportunity to hear pro and con over in Lakota. I don't know if I saw one or two people from here, and it was a way to hear both sides. Publius Holda said against it. She's very convincing.
Yes.
And the man who spoke for it, he was okay. He was very kind, but he's wrong. And I agree with you totally. You're right on. And thank you for saying that. What you did.
Thank you very much. Like I said, some other states are looking at some of these issues, and we need to look what some of these other state legislatures are doing because they're setting the tone. Because you know how it is. California passes something, how long does it take before it starts to ripple out here? So Texas is basically the new California, and we need to see what Texas is doing and try to emulate some of that. Yes, ma'am.
I thought Ohio's already signed on to this.
No, not to the best of my knowledge. Now, I mean, we can actually trade amongst ourselves, but we can't.
I mean the Constitution.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. We need to rescind our call for a con-con. Actually, Texas has already done so. So we need to do that because the fact that
He sponsored some kind of a bill about
rescinding it.
No.
Oh, he likes it. Oh, I'll definitely have to have a chat with him, so I'll give him a call. So, any other questions? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Sonny.